Hello, 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 and welcome back to another episode of Spooked Coast to Coast. How's everyone doing? Joy, how's it going?
Going good. How are you guys?
Hey, I'm excited, super happy because we are representing our South Florida teams. We're the last team to win two titles back to back, and as of Tuesday, our Florida Panthers have become back-to-back champions.
Look, wait. Let me make the sound.
That was pretty good. Pretty good. So let's see. You know, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but there in South Florida history, there has never been a team to go three. So hopefully we can make that happen with the Cats. But congratulations, Florida Panthers, once again. Love you guys. It was really nervous a few times, but
thank you.
You guys did your thing. So, babe, sticking with that Florida theme that we have going on at the start of the show today, why don't we tell the good folks about our friends up north in North Florida?
Yes. So today we are introducing a 4-time author. She also collects haunted dolls. Maybe items too, or maybe just dolls. We'll get into that. Featured on Haunted Hospitals. That is, I forgot the network right now, but an investigator for over 25 years. And her team in North Florida is the Paranormal Investigators of North Florida, located, I think they are from Perry, Florida. This is Denise Burroughs. Let's bring her on. Hi.
Hello. Hello again.
Hi, how are you?
Good, and you? Thank you for being here.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
So is the team located in Perry, Florida, right? Or no?
Yeah, we are in Perry. When I moved up to North Florida, I was originally in Tallahassee, and then, like I told you, I moved into Perry, and then I went ahead and established, the people that were already on it, and then a few that we kind of just put it together here.
Beautiful. Let's start from the beginning. I remember you reading well, not you reading, me reading. You telling me that you spoke and I think would hear spirit and talk to spirit since a young age. So tell us about that growing up.
Well, a lot of people, that's the first thing you hear them tell you is that they had an experience from when they were a child. Mine was very different, and I sincerely mean that when it happened as a child. But what we were talking about before getting on the air about sense, I always had a hearing issue as a child. And so it was something that happened just by birth. So for me to hear spirit was something very weird because I'm thinking, well, if I have this problem, how can I hear this? And so there were a lot of questions there and a lot of gray areas, like, was I really hearing spirit? What was going on with me from very young? And it was over a period of time, a long medical evaluation, both to find out what was going on. And at the time when I was growing up, the time frame and all this, you didn't talk about it. So I grew up in the late 70s, 80s. And this stuff was really still on the hush. People just didn't talk about it much. And so how do you go around telling people that, I'm hearing voices in my head? It's like, it was a weird time. But as it unfolded and became more clear what was happening, it evolved. And I really feel, too, being put under anesthesia for as much as I was, played a very large role in that. And after doing the research, it proved to be probably very true. It maybe opened up stuff that allowed this to filter out, literally.
I've heard that before. Yeah.
I was going to say.
Because I had surgery. I had surgery from when I was 6 years old all the way up into my late teens. So I was under many times. Sometimes surgeries were 8 hours at a time for reconstructive surgery.
Wow.
That's crazy.
So you got that much stuff in you, things are happening.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe it. And like it awoken some or opened something up.
Yeah, I believe that. I do.
Yeah. Wow.
Do you remember your first experience of maybe like communicating with spirit, or, was it scary for you?
it's weird because it kind of all circles around my mom. And, you know, my mother was a single parent, so she raised me down in Miami and in Broward. She used to always think that I was just being like one of those ornery children, like I didn't want her to go on a date and I didn't want her to have a life. You know, I was very clingy, that kind of thing. If you know, you know. But that wasn't it at all. I think it was like things were happening, like warnings, like I was trying to tell her things. But again, it wasn't registering on the radar. It wasn't until much later that I found out that my grandmother also was very intuitive. And my mother didn't deny that she had a sense of things. And to this day, she still does. So, you know, it might be in the family. I don't know. But it started right around age 7, 8 years old, literally, for me.
Yeah.
And it would just be like a weird, like a voice, you know, like I could literally hear a voice. So they call that clairaudient. And, you know, and then the voyant part of it is like, you know, it's just so weird. The way I sense it, the way I see it or feel it, and then it's spot on. So, you know, it led to other things even beyond just ghost hunting for me.
That's awesome.
This was the channel to get that out, if you know what I'm saying. This was that doorway. When this doorway opened in the paranormal world and everybody started coming out with it, that was my exit. That was the way to take what I was holding all those years and finally put it out there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I feel like that happened for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You weren't hiding in the shadows anymore. You could come out and say, hey, this is where I am. You know, believe me or not, and call me crazy if you want, but I know what I know, and I feel what I feel.
I think it's a bonus when you're gifted as well. When you're on investigations, I think it's like a bonus to be gifted.
I think my editor said it best in my book that I wrote, When Spirit Speaks. I was actually going through the pages of it before we came on live, and she heavily talks about the fact that I show this compassion and that I'm able to sense things even before equipment goes on. So I would say yes. In our investigations, it's been very useful. And there have been times if I feel like a place is just not going to work out, we don't go.
No.
I'll pull the plug.
I think Jen, you did it too, right? You used with yours.
So that brought instantly when Denise said that, that triggered like a thought in my mind. So, well, first let me rewind back to what I was gonna say. Is I feel like maybe in around the 2000s ish, it became more socially acceptable to be interested in the paranormal. You know, to have that conversation. Before you were just, for lack of better words, maybe thought of as a weirdo or different type of person.
100%.
Yeah, it's cool how it's evolved now, and more people are into it. Now, going into what you just finished saying, babe, do you want to tell the story? No. So we were.
I don't want to tell too much of the story.
We were gonna go to. We were gonna go to not Vegas. What is that area called? We were gonna go
Virginia City.
Virginia City. Thank you. That they were hosting
where the Goldfield is.
Goldfield. They were hosting a Paracon there, and we were gonna go. That our team was invited, and we were just gonna go to be with our teammates. And something happened with Jenny that she just had that thought in her head of, we can't go. We cannot go. Something's going to happen. We can't go. We completely canceled everything.
Yeah, I booked the hotel and all that. And I was starting to book the flights. I don't know. I just kept getting like super stressed out over it. And I've never had that for a flight or anything. I've never even felt like that over an airplane flight or just being over there. I don't know what it was, but I just told him, I was like, I'm not going. I'm done. I can't do it. I can't like ignore that feeling anymore. So I just canceled everything and didn't go. And then we've gone to flights for that. And he's always like, how do you feel? I'm like, well, I feel good. This is great. Everything's fine. And he's like freaking out because he's never seen me freak out over something like that before. you know, we've flown to different places and stuff like that. But that one,
My husband is the same way. Like, he'll always ask me what I think. You know,
Yeah,
he'll
that's
always
it.
say, like, what do you think? And I just look at him sometimes, like, with crossed eyes, like, what do you mean? You know, and I hate to say it, I don't like to fly. So if I ever get called to go somewhere further, give me enough time. It's either a train, I'm driving, or something. And I used to fly all the time, but now I don't like planes at all. So it's like, oh boy, it could be a problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, that sixth sense kicks in, and I always listen to it, and I encourage people to do the same. And I always tell my clients that I do work with, you know, don't ignore that little voice, because it's there for a reason.
I agree. Yeah.
Talking about your husband, so I know he was also raised from South Florida in Davie, and he's from Davie, right? You were
Cooper
raised in
City,
Davie.
Davie area.
Okay, so he is a Davie boy, and I met him. Weirdly enough, I was, like I said, I was on opposite sides of the fence. So he's in Davie, I'm over there in Hollywood area, wherever, Sunrise at the time. But we both now currently own a paint and body shop. So that is our main job. We're in the automotive industry, but he was already in it long before he met me. And then I just got dragged into it. So now I've been doing it for 30 years. But he had multiple shops in the South Florida area. So yeah, that's his hometown. He was born in Hollywood Memorial Hospital. He is a total native Floridian. And yeah, he's a Davie boy.
And wow, did he have any experiences himself being in that area? Because I know there's a lot of like native place, like stuff, activity there.
I'll be honest with you, I don't really think that he paid much mind to any of this until he got involved with me. Yeah, this didn't really cross his radar too much until we met. And then I really never even was that forward with him to even tell him much about all this, because I didn't want him to think I was absolutely off my rocker. It was a gradual thing, but now that he has seen it firsthand, and we do call him the jokester on the team. You know, just to be funny here, we busted him one time when he was supposed to be watching cameras. He was on a marketplace looking for cars. So yeah. So, you know, I mean, he's the jokester in the group, but he does a job and he's good. But I don't think he ever had any real experiences. And if he did, you know, they weren't as profound as like what goes on now. Now he has acknowledged this whole thing. He understands it. So yeah, he's had some experiences, but I don't know about down in Davie, because he never really talked about that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think so. He grew up also around that area, and I don't think you had experiences really. But
I was too busy playing soccer and basketball.
There you go.
Schools and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So.
But let me
He was
tell you,
too busy messing with cars.
Mountains over there and stuff like that.
Now, yes, that's right over there by Treetops Park. The Indian burial in there. His family's home was very close to that. Like, it was a couple streets down the road, Pine Island, and where his family was. So yes, if you want to talk about that, very much so, because I feel that people, even to this day, do not respect Indian burial. And God knows we have been around it enough. You don't go in a cemetery and walk on a grave. No. And when you see Indian burial, you should know what it looks like and definitely stay away from it. Treetops Park, I think they were the only ones outside of a few other places that actually had them roped off to where people could not really go on them. And, you know, as a Native American Indian friend of mine once said, you know, you step on the grave, you know, you will have bad luck, you know. That's what they feel. That's what they thought. Now, I mean, I'm not speaking for everyone, because somebody might be watching this saying, well, she's crazy. That's not true. But it's still a disrespect, and you have to identify those areas. There are some properties that we have investigated where right away you can spot this. And the thing about being up here and what we see and what we've investigated and how this all has evolved, a lot of this goes back to the early 1800s. some of this stuff don't even have records. They were either burned in fires or you can't find anything. But I could tell you right now, the nooks and crannies of small towns, unbelievable stuff, and a lot to be said about what I've run into up in North Florida and even into Georgia. It's crazy. And a lot of Indian burial.
Yeah.
Your story is familiar to mine as far as, what the topic that we're just talking about now. I had a really good friend, and the chat will know, a really good friend that I went to high school with. She's actually one of the few people I still chat with. Her name's Wit. We did an episode with her last year. She lives 3 streets down from Griffin on Pine Island.
Yes.
So she remembers when the community was being built.
Yeah, when she was small.
They literally had like people digging up bones, like native bones and native artifacts, and it was like a show. Like people were going there to like watch it, and she believes 100% that that's what caused a lot of the negativity that happened afterwards.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that is a thing. That is a definite thing and that's known in Broward County, unfortunately.
It's sacred land, and it stands. It is what it is. It's sacred land, and it should always be treated as such. Not everybody agrees with that. Not to get off topic, but we are talking about Native American Indian. It's the same thing with sage. Sage for them, it's a very powerful property. And although we use it, we don't use it abusively. I find other means to deal with things outside of sage because, again, that is a sacred tool. And it should just not be taken advantage of as far as how you use it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Tell us, well, you did mention your team. So how did you start your team, and tell us about your team?
Oh, yeah, cool.
So I originally, when I first started this whole paranormal thing, I was a solo investigator in South Florida. And I just had people coming to me because of this other stuff that I could, see, feel, and hear kind of thing. And so then that just went from word to mouth, word to mouth, word to mouth. And I never had a team there. I was just me. And then when I moved up to North Florida in Tallahassee in 2006, I started this little thing that I was doing. I was checking things off a list of what I wanted to accomplish. And that goes right into the books and everything. And I said to my husband, I said, I might start a team. And he's like, really, why? I said, I don't know. I said, I just think it might be a good idea because sometimes the way this is going, I'm getting dragged into places that maybe I shouldn't be going by myself, and got to have extra eyes and extra people. And then I was really cautious about who I was bringing on. And I mean, I had a few that worked out and didn't work out. But as it stands right now, we are 4. So it is Cliff, my husband, and then Chris and LaDonna. And we make up Paranormal Investigators in North Florida. LaDonna's been with me the longest. She's been on probably close to 8 years. And my book, When Spirit Speaks, which I'm sure we'll talk about, is dedicated to one of my members that we lost, unfortunately, about close to 4 years now. But I found that the smaller the group is, the better it is. And we work well together. So if it's working, I'm good with it. And that's when I just fully pulled it all together in Tallahassee. I had different members at the time. And as they evolved and changed, it's kind of like trying on shoes. You got to just see which things fit best. And this team has been held together ever since. So that's it. And we just, it just works. And everything that we get, all the cases that we have, they're all word of mouth. It's just, that's it. That's how it's, people just refer out. And that's how I get these cases. A lot of my work, people know me for in-home investigations.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
Residentials, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, those are the best.
Do you have a way of teaching like residentials? I know, so I know. So your office in Perry, Florida. I know you do workshops, and you also have one of your most active dolls, I would say, there, located there.
Yes.
Do you do workshops on residential by any chance?
Well, what happens is I do workshops once a year. I've been trying to get it right on the calendar because sometimes in the spring here, Perry has a lot of events. So I try to stay away from their events and try to separate mine from theirs so that maybe I can draw more people in. I think with all the storms and everything that have hit here, you know, the last couple of years have been kind of up and down with everything. The workshops that I do, we talk about all different subject matters. As far as the in-home investigation part of it, I've never really like taught on how to do that. A lot of the people that attend these workshops are actually coming in to seek the help, or they want me to go to their house, or they want to ask questions, or they want to hand over haunted objects. So to answer that question, I do have more than dolls. I've got Ouija boards. I've got everything that's been handed over to me. And I keep that stuff locked up and in different locations. The Perry office is what I call my home base. That is where we have our meetings, our workshops. That's where the team gets together. And basically, that's where I keep some of the more significant things, including Phoenix. And she's there at the Perry office.
No.
Brandon, our friend in the chat, he wants to know if that office is across the court, the courthouse, I guess.
Yes, it is.
I have.
Yes, I'm actually, that office is downtown, and it is between probation and the bail bonds office. I mean, go figure, I'm right in the middle, and the courthouse is right across the street. I'm right in the middle.
That's hilarious.
I want to. Is that courthouse haunted? Have you guys?
You know, I don't know. I'm sure that, well, I could tell you this. All of the buildings in that downtown area have a very strong history. I've had very well-known people, I won't mention what they do for a living, who have sat and talked to me to explain different facets of this town. I also have another building there that is a haunted brothel. It says that it was an opera house on the plate at the door. I think it was a front because I can't find any documents that back that up. But what I do know is the building, okay, so you come down the steps and it would be to my right if I'm facing that door. That used to be the saloon. So we do know that. So there was a saloon there, and then this building, and then there was a tree out there, and that was all like a 1-lane or 2-lane dirt road back in the day. And so obviously they had horses and all kinds of stuff that traveled through there. And this building that I use, I had filmed in there. So Haunted Florida was established in 2019 when I did a web series. And it was a 16-series web series, which is on YouTube. And we filmed in different locations. One of the locations we filmed in was that building. I use it for filming. I also allow, or we're going to start bringing in other private teams or investigators that want to check it out. And then if I do small groups, they're going to be narrowed down really small. But I've taken people in that building. And there's just a very strong presence in there. Actually, during filming in there, it's on one of the videos if you ever watch it. I don't know which segment it was, but I got very overcome. I got a bad headache. At the same time that was happening, the lights were flashing out in the hallway. Now the building has no power. We had lights out there to give us light. And as the lights were flashing, Chris is standing behind me. Now I can't see Chris. I can't see what's going on with him because I'm looking straight ahead, but he's got an orb coming right down his body, and he's starting to get cold. While he's getting cold, I'm getting sick. And it was just a revolving door. Everybody runs out to the hallway and they're looking. Camera guy's like, what the heck's going on out here? But yeah, there's something definitely there. And some of the businesses below have told me that they've heard walking up there at night and have asked me, hey, have you been in that building? I'm like, no, I'm not in there.
Question, is that so talking about the show, is that the same place or is different location from the haunted hospital?
Yes, haunted hospital that segment that was done that I did was in reference to a location in Broward County.
I'm trying to
So
think of
if you let me move out of this sunlight right here, turn myself this way. If you watch that episode, they portray me as a teenager in that episode. They use my married name, but they portray me as the young girl that worked at that hospital and my experience that happened there. And I was really surprised too that I actually got on that show, because when they first called me, I couldn't get there when they wanted me to go film. I was like, are you kidding? I'm an hour away from an airport. I got the shoes on my feet and clothes on my back. They wanted me to go. I turned it down, and they're like, we're calling you back. I'm like, oh, I'll believe this when I see it. And I told my husband, I said, I think I just blew that. Sure enough, they called me back. And then I went and I filmed it. So that incident, it's in the book, but it happened in Broward with me, that particular thing that wound up on Haunted Hospital.
I gotta watch that Haunted Hospital.
So that's on is it only on Haunt TV or?
Well, from what I've been told now, it was supposed to air on Travel, but you know, Travel Channel had a shakeup with all their paranormal TV. So they kind of railed things all over the place, even though it was part of a Travel Channel segment. I know it's on a lot of online streaming. You have to look for it. So it would be season 4, episode 10, and it's called Her Last Breath. And on my TikTok, which is under Paranormal Investigators in North Florida, I just present the segment that shows my part of it. But there are 3 people in this episode, and they are 2 nurses from different parts of the country, and myself. And I'm the last one on. So I'm wearing like a pink color shirt. And Haunt TV had it on just recently. I don't know if they're going to repeat those. And then I've heard that it's been on Sling and different places, Apple, everywhere. Because, you know, everything's going streaming now. So, I mean, I would imagine at some point, because I was told there were 48 episodes that had to air. A Canadian production company actually filmed it. So I would imagine at some point it had already left Canada. It's in the States, but everything eventually does make it to the TV. In what time frame? I'm not sure. But right now I know it was on Haunt TV.
Can you tell us what experiences or what activity does the haunted brothel did that you've gotten there?
What type of activity? Yeah,
like what experiences do people normally experience there?
I've had a couple say that they feel very overcome. They can't breathe. They have to get out of the building. There's a photo. It might be on our Facebook page. I'm standing there and there's something behind me, but it's not a person. It's a really weird, lanky looking figure. We've seen this a few times. We've actually gone up the long, steep steps and got right to the top. You look down the hallway, and it almost looks like a black mass up on the ceiling area and down the wall. It's creepy. There's one room in particular there where we actually started the filming, and that room is where we've taken people, and that's when things just start getting a little bit chaotic in there. A lot of noise, you know, a lot of like shuffle movement, and then seeing these darting figures. And I mean, you can see them with your eyes, so you don't even need equipment. It's like you're looking right at it. I remember one time getting ready to go up the stairs and a car rode by with a bunch of kids and they're yelling, "That place is haunted." I'm giving them a thumbs up on the street, like, beautiful. So,
yes, it is.
Good for me. Yeah.
I want to own a haunted location.
I know, right?
It's my goal. One day when I'm...
And I have a friend that owns a haunted bookstore, and that's probably the most amazing thing that you could own is a haunted bookstore.
Anything haunted, I want it.
Anything haunted, I'm telling you.
Even it could be a car. I don't care. Just give me. I want it.
Do the books fly off? I want to know.
That's yeah.
You know, I can tell you, I actually investigated the bookstore, and so therefore it is active. And she's got some crazy stuff that goes on at night. Like they'll turn everything off, and they've got a back room of the bookstore, and all of a sudden, like you just start seeing a mist of things flying around in there. And some people have said, "Oh, that's dust, and that's coming from the air." It's not. It looks like a storm, and there's no bugs back there. And it's very weird how it does its thing, the way it circulates and goes in all different directions. And it trips off her security cameras. And so we haven't really nailed that down yet, but we do know there's a female presence in there. And I believe she's there from back in the day when it was, you know, back in its time, an older store or location. But it's a fabulous location, and just to have that whole haunted tie to it, I think gives it a real uniqueness. I love it.
Is it really big? Like aisles and aisles of books, or is it like a
It's like, you know, you walk through the door and you've got just books on one side here and over here and in the back, and it's just one big open space. But the way they have it set up, it's just you know, if you're sensitive to this stuff, you can feel the energy when you walk in there. And there is absolutely nothing in there that I fear. So I've already cleared that with them. They got nothing to worry about. You know, I mean, this is a friendly spirit that's there, but is stuck in time that wants to remain there. And that's in the front of the building. Now, whatever this crazy stuff is that's going on in the back of the building, I don't know because we haven't nailed that down yet. I don't understand this storm thing that takes place in there.
Weird.
But it is. Looks like a snowstorm, but
Like
there are no bugs in there. There's no windows. There's no way for anything to get in there.
It almost sounds like a portal, you know, like they say mirror, but it's like
there you go.
Like one
there you go.
Yeah, that's
the
weird.
owner actually said that to me. She said, "Would I sound nuts if I told you that I thought that there might be a portal back here?"
Like a vortex.
And I said, "Yes, it looks like a vortex because of the way it does its thing." And then it goes back this way, and then everything's just swarming in different directions. Now, I have a residence in Lake Jackson, and there's an active portal in that residence. And we've sealed it for now. I mean, I haven't heard anything from her, so things must be quiet. But I have some pictures on our Facebook page. We use the laser. I'm sure you're familiar. And it's green, all laser in there. And all of a sudden, you see an image right there, and it's just standing right at what appears to be this portal opening.
Wow.
And the feeling that you get when you approach it, it's not a feeling like you want to get sucked in, but we had placed something on there. It was a protection symbol, and so we wanted to test it out to see if this would actually work, because Chris is really into that. He's like, "Look, I swear by this, so we're going to put it up there." And the homeowner reached out to me and said, "You know, I'm having a hard time keeping this thing on the wall. It wants to keep falling off. What do I do?" Chris is like, "Tell her to take tape. I don't care what she does, but just make it stay on the wall. Don't let it come down." And we went back out there and checked it out again. It was during another visit. Sure enough, you go in there and you just kind of feel that feeling if you get too close. It's, you know, for me, it felt more like a pulsing. You know, and that's kind of the feeling I get in that bookstore sometimes in the back. And that's why when you said portal, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
I definitely, with the bookstore, think it's a portal.
I wonder if you guys, well, I don't know if they're going to do it, but put two mirrors like in the middle of it and see what happens.
That's a great idea. And speaking of mirrors, I have another client that we went through that with her. They picked up an old vanity. They brought it home. They brought it upstairs. It was in the guest bedroom. Actually, the team member that passed away before he became on my team, they were my clients. And I went there, and the mirror was half mirror and half black. And I'm looking at it like, am I seeing this right? Like, what? I can't see through the bottom. I can only see through the top. Within an hour of being there, this black part of the mirror starts just going all the way to the top of the mirror. Now, before you know it, the whole mirror is black. I'm like, what is going on with this mirror? So I had them detach it from the vanity, and then of course did some research on how to potentially take it out of the house, but using a method that you have to do certain things to wrap it, seal it, and then take it away from the home. Some people think, oh, you should break the glass. No, you don't break the glass. And so we did that, and then everything kind of mellowed out in that room. But oddly enough, I won't get into too many details on this because it's a very sensitive subject. But the woman involved in all this is a very good friend of mine, and her husband were both on my team. And he passed away. She got off the team. But sadly enough, she lost her son too. And what happened was, if I remember this conversation, she had told me just prior to all this happening, he had walked to the back where this thing got dropped off by the father and buried and placed. And why he went back over there, I don't know. I don't know what made him go over there. There's so many things circulating around what might have happened with him, and we're not going to label anything paranormal because we're not. It's not. But they've had a lot of weird stuff happen there, and behind them, we do believe in and around where they are, based on the street, a lot of craziness and a lot of burial sites back there. So there's a lot of energy for sure in that neighborhood.
I'm sorry for your friend's loss. That's
Oh yeah, it's been rough. And she was on my group for a while, and she's part of the web series. So if you watch the trailer for that, you'll see her there at the beginning, and she was a great investigator. I definitely understand why she had to separate herself from the whole thing, without a doubt. But, you know, her husband was a huge part of my group. And so the reason I just know this whole spirit world is real is because there's no denying that when we took a break after he passed away, we went to a location here in Perry. And while we were upstairs in this room, the spirit box died on us. And that would be him killing the batteries, because everywhere I go, the batteries die. So if they're dying, I'm into something up over my head, because energy kills your batteries. Right. And so the batteries died. And so my husband called his name out and said, "Is that you?" And we changed the batteries. And a few minutes later, I've only had this happen to me 2 other times. He said my husband's name and he said my name. It's plain as day. And then all of a sudden, we're looking back at the window, and there's an image of a man sitting there. And I took a picture of it, and I sent it to his wife. I'm like, "Look, you should have this." And he was wearing an outfit that he had on, and she identified it. And I swear to you, it looked just like him. And we knew that night that he was present in that building. So I have no doubt in my mind that the spirit world is very real. The veil right now is very thin, and there's a lot going on. And I see a lot of crazy things up here. I'm telling you, I see a lot of crazy things because these older towns and these older buildings are just stuck in time.
Yeah.
Do you think it helps because you have abilities to see that stuff? Do you think
I think if you got any type of gift, I think it makes it easier for you to work with it quickly, to identify it, or to try to have that feeling of what you might be dealing with, you know. It's a blessing and a curse. Does that make sense?
Yes. I don't have any abilities, but I can imagine what you guys see. And
it's a blessing. Through. It's a blessing and a curse at the same time.
Yeah.
Especially because there's sometimes things you don't want to see.
Yeah, that, and if you don't know how to turn it off, you know.
You got to learn how to turn it off. A lot of people say they can't, but you have to, because, you know, I suffer from anxiety, and I always wondered, where did that come from?
Yeah.
I think I kind of figured out where it comes from. You know, it's a lot of
Mhm.
energy that you're dealing with, so you have to be able to shut it down. It's yeah, you have to know how to definitely protect yourself, and be able to just bring it down a notch, because if you can't do that, it's a problem.
You're gonna be very busy. Yeah, too. No.
Yeah, when everybody wants to talk at the
I
same
wish I
time.
had something. Yeah, I wish I was gifted in that way.
To hear everybody talk at the same time sometimes when you're in a room can get a little chaotic.
Yeah.
People think that they talk the way we talk. They
No.
don't. It's a very muted way of speaking.
Mhm.
Sometimes you don't hear them at all. You see the mouth moving, but you can't hear the voice, which is even more complicated because they can't express what they're trying to say. A lot of people say, well, why are they here in the first place? They should be gone. And I'm one of those believers that believes that everybody's in a holding pattern.
Mhm.
And I believe that spirit chooses its own time when it wants to go. And the main key thing in most investigations that I have discovered, traumatic death. Whenever there's a traumatic death, that is when stuff really gets stuck earthbound, because it doesn't even know that it's gone. Doesn't even
Yeah,
know.
I believe that too.
Doesn't know. Like if a person got hit by a car, boom, you're done. What? You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
what just happened here? And they're not even realizing that this is taking place. So I think that's with traumatic death, you get a lot of things that get stuck.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've seen that, and we've experienced ourselves during investigations. Like, some are just afraid to move on because they said that they don't want to how can I
Suffer
say
the
it?
consequences
But
of
they don't
their
say it like that. They just say like they're afraid
Yeah.
of what's next. But they're afraid of because of something they've done, and they don't want to deal with whatever they're. I don't know. That's literally
Like they don't want to face like the higher power situation, maybe,
Is
you
it
know,
they call it judgment?
Yeah.
When you go to judgment?
right.
Yeah.
They're worried about that.
in like it's like they well when we've asked those specific spirits what are they around, what do they see, and they tell us just complete darkness. They're in the dark, and they rather be in that. We've had some of them say that they want prayers or just want uplifting or like some light, and we'll do that sometimes. But
they need help. Yeah.
some of them not really help, but
some-
they just ask for like prayers, and then some of them don't. They just rather be there.
I'd rather be, yeah.
We just to piggyback off of Denise's what she was saying. Also, we've also encountered spirit where, just like she was saying, they don't know that they've passed. They're still doing their normal routine every day. Of we've come across, and it was me. I tend to get smells. So I'm like, it smells like coffee, and it was almost like this individual was there. It had the same routine of like coffee and read the newspaper type of thing. Is what we were kind of like getting,
Right.
but it's not weird to see that, is what I'm saying. Like we've come across that quite a few times, that they don't know that they've passed and they're still living life like if they were still with us.
I'm going to share something with your followers. We haven't gotten to my book yet, but I will tell you that towards the end, I talk about an experience that really profoundly affected me, and really validated the work I do and the people I deal with. It validated those that come to me to just talk outside of paranormal that need guidance or help. I was in a cemetery and I had literally stopped dead in my tracks. And I looked straight ahead, and there was a child, and she was standing right next to her tombstone. And the feeling I got at that moment was like, it just sort of like hit me like a brick. Like, wow, this is so surreal right now. You know, like if this doesn't prove something, nothing will ever prove anything. I looked right at her, and she looked right at me. And then when she was gone, I walked over to the grave, and then realized that it was a marker of a child that had passed a long time ago. I said in my book, you know, that was the most surreal experience that I think I ever had, because it was the realization of the fact that this is not a joke. This is really real.
Yeah.
We live and we die and we travel. We're travelers. Do we reincarnate? We can. The soul can choose whatever it wants to do. Looking at her, watching her stand right there was something that really just kind of like stuck to me. And I never forget that when I'm out, whether I'm investigating or if I'm just dealing with people on a more personal level, because I know I've seen that, and it just hit me like a wall. To watch her just stand there, just gazing at me, you know, she wasn't floating or anything like that. She was standing there, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. And I've seen a lot of other things, but that one there just kind of hit me, you know, because it was a child.
Yeah. Yeah.
It kind of validated a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
If you were on the fence, this took you right off the fence.
Right.
And you didn't need a piece of equipment to see it. You could see it with your own eye, you know?
I say I want gifts, but I don't know. I mean, hearing stories, I'm like, do I really know? I think it'd be cool, you know, but I don't know. I hear stories.
You know, somebody asked me one time, does anything ever come home with you? And you know, I think I've had maybe once or twice, but probably the most profound thing that ever happened to me in my house was I was in bed going to sleep. It was after an investigation. And I've heard clients tell me about things sitting on their beds. And you want to be able to relate to your clients. You want to at least say you really understand what they're dealing with.
Yeah.
And I never asked for that. That's for sure. But I'm laying there and I got my back, because I normally will sleep on my right. I was facing the left. I don't know why that night that happened. And all of a sudden, I mean, like, I was so tired, but I could feel the bed fully pressed down. I sat there for a second. I'm like, oh, hell no.
Yeah.
I thought about it. I thought about for just a second, and I turned over and I'm like, whoever you are, get out of my bed and get out of my room.
Right.
And then my husband wakes up and he's like, you talking to me? I'm like, go back to sleep. I'm talking to you. He's like, well, what just happened? I'm like, we'll talk about it later, or you're not going to sleep.
Yeah.
So in the morning, I told him, I'm like, something sat on the bed. And he just looked at me. He says, how long are you going to remain a paranormal investigator? I said, don't worry about it. I got this under control.
You know, you don't have to be an investigator for that to happen, because
no, it can happen to anybody. But you know, right away he brings this whole, oh, we went to a case and now you got something sitting in the bed. I'm like, did it bother you?
You could see it. You saw it. You saw.
And I felt it. I didn't see it. I felt it. It's kind of like, you know, you're in your bed, right? And two people in the bed. Someone's heavier than someone, so you got that automatic weight distribution there.
Right.
Now all of a sudden you got more weight distribution. You could feel the mattress just being pulled down. I'm like, oh, wait a second here.
Yeah, I can picture that in my head.
What is this? Yeah, I wasn't too happy about that. It never happened again.
Wow.
So
never
talking
happened again.
Stuff happening in your house, do you, with the items you do have in your house, do you find yourself having like a lot of activity in your house, or is your house pretty like?
My house is even keeled because I do things here to keep everything under control. If I ever had something in my home that I felt was going to be a problem, then it would be out of here. If it's mellow energy and I can contain it, it can stay. For example, Lolly over here, she is a Precious Moments doll, but she's probably one of the most active things in the house right now. And it's crazy because I could set this out and I have video up that you could go look at out of my own personal or my pages, and give it about 15 minutes, 10 minutes, and this will go off. It make everything go off. Tripwires, pods, K2 meters. and I don't know why. There's a song that this doll reacts to. God, I can't think of the name of it now. Facebook made me take it down the other day because you can't use the music rights and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
I think I mentioned it in my video what the song is, but it's a church song, no less. And the doll was just firing everything up. So I'm like, okay, but yeah, this is Lolly.
Do you
And
feel like
Was
is
it
it
a
a child or is it an adult?
Yeah.
it's a Precious Moments doll.
No, like the spirit.
What about it?
Do you feel is it a child spirit or is it like an adult spirit with them or?
You know, I have questioned whether or not it's a child spirit, but then there was a part of me that questioned whether or not this belonged to somebody that it meant something to, and that there was an attachment. I haven't really fully gotten to the bottom of it, and I'll tell you, I had no intention of getting this. This was an accident. I was at a Goodwill. I walk in there sometimes because things will just pop out at me. If you speak to me, I'll entertain the idea. If you're not talking to me, I'm walking right past you. This thing was buried. And something just told me to turn around and go back. That was the exact feeling. Turn around and go back. I went back, but I didn't know what I was looking for. Then I started moving things around, and there it was. And then I thought about, do I want to take you or not? And I did. Now, you can't see this right now, probably not, but this whole thing right here just moved a little bit. It literally, like it shook.
Hold on. I'm going to blow up my screen so I can really look at her.
It's almost as if.
And, I'm trying not to touch my desk at all, but it moved on its own just a few seconds ago, So I really don't know, to be quite honest with you. I mean, the other night when it was making everything go crazy in the house, I thought to myself, well, maybe, Lolly, you need to go downtown with the rest of the jailbirds. I'm not sure.
No.
But she's so cute. I'm going to leave her here because I really don't feel like it's anything bad.
Yeah.
I mean, you're paranormal investigators. Listen, how many people call you or get in touch with you or you go investigate? Everybody thinks everything's demonic.
Yeah.
I can tell you, you know what I'm saying? I can tell you right now, I got cases where they insist that they got demons. I'm like, why would you want that mess in your life, first of all? And second of all, not everything is a demon. And I think I've only had 2 cases that really had the earmarkings of something like that, And if it gets to that point, I got other people that take over from there. I don't even get into that.
Yeah. Have you ever used a trigger? Have you ever used her as a? So Brandon asked, have you ever used her as a trigger object?
That's a good question.
Good question. I have not. She's fairly new to the arsenal of things that I have here. But I have thought about that. I'm actually looking into putting the way she's set up here. This is a really tight spot between her hands. I'm thinking of like maybe taking a K2 or a smaller piece of equipment and actually anchoring it to this doll, and then maybe take her and see what she does. She'll probably be going with me to Live Oak in October. She'll be one of the dolls that'll travel with me to that. We do an event there at the library in October. I don't have the date sitting in front of me, but it'll be up. And we do a presentation there. We used to do them right on Halloween, but that kind of interferes with the events that we do here. So this one will probably go with me to Live Oak.
She's really cute.
Yeah.
She is.
A precious moment item figurines as a child. Like I still have studying them in my parents' house. Yeah.
And a lot of people have asked me because right away they tie this back to something very holy, very, pure. Why would the doll have something like that attached to it? And a lot of people get freaked over that. I don't think it's anything bad. I just think that energy is powerful, and it stays and it connects.
Yeah. Do you have anything haunted in your bookshelf area?
Behind me, nothing in this bookcase here.
Okay.
Over here, there's more dolls in front of me in my office here, and each of these dolls have something. They're usually given to me by people that are offing them out of their houses or that they've had experiences, and I'll keep them for a while to see if anything happens. And then if nothing happens and I feel they're clean, I'll go ahead and send them on their way. I'm not an avid doll collector by no means. But since I became so involved in what I do, now I have an interest in haunted objects.
Right.
So I do have a few of them. Like I said, there's a couple Ouija boards that I have. They were in somebody's family for a very long, long time. And when they were brought to me, I had said to her, look, just cover them up and keep them loose, but just wrap them up and then bring them to me. Well, bless her dad, very religious man, but very sweet. He took tape and he didn't tape the boards, but he'd done something where he wrapped them really tight. And so when I got them, in order to get the tape off of them, once they were released, the amount of energy that came off of them was unbelievable. I mean, unbelievable. And so I took them because she wanted them out of her home, and I have them in a glass case down at my office. So if the planchetta and the board is not connected, there's no interaction there. So all of the tools that make the board operate are separate from the board itself.
The reason I asked is because in the beginning of the show, on your left side, I think your left side, I kept, how like my green screen, if you see it kind of like fade in.
Right.
I kept seeing, okay. No, the other side. So your left.
Oh, okay. So that's.
Yeah. I kept looking over there because, like, how mine is kind of like fading in and out. I kept seeing little swirls over there. So I wasn't going to say anything at all. And I was going to.
Girl, I can't tell you. There could be anything going on in here. I got the door closed and a bunch of haunted objects in this room with me. It could be anything.
Yeah, it didn't happen all the time, but I would I would be staring at you when you're talking, and then I would see something out of the corner of my eye, kind of like, and I'm like,
that's my world. That's my world. I don't know. It could be anybody. It could be Lolly triggering everything off in here. Who knows?
Yeah, that's
she likes being on camera, so we're gonna leave her right here.
Yeah, she was behind you at one point, right? Yeah, I think she was behind you. Yeah, maybe that was her.
She was behind me. Yes, she was behind me. Before I moved her, she was sitting next to the 105-year-old doll.
Right now, it's a lot brighter, I think, because the sun might be setting over there, but it was dark.
Yes, it is. The sun was right over there, and I was trying to get out of that light so that it wouldn't be so blinding on the other side.
Yeah, no, it's before it got this bright, so I think it was towards the beginning. I'll have to rewatch and really pay attention, but it kind of looked like it was.
Oh, it wouldn't shock me. You'd be surprised what you might see when you're looking, because I had both of them sitting behind me right from the very beginning.
I'm staring at you, and then I just, at the corner of your eye, you catch something, and then I'm looking. What is that? Does he have a green screen?
Yeah.
Before we get into the book, really quick, I wanted to touch on the doll you have, Phoenix, that's in your office. So can you tell us a little bit about her and what's her story?
Well, Phoenix came to me. It was a source that I can't mention any names, but this young lady that had her actually showed me a video of this doll moving on its own in her house, in her room. And it had gotten to the point where she was just overwhelmed in fear because of things that were happening. And she reached out to me and said, can you please take her? And so I did. And then I, put her in my office and everything. I felt something off of her right away. Wasn't willing to jump to conclusions by no means, but I did feel something off of her. And it was later that we decided, okay, we got nothing going on tonight. Let's go to the office and test out Phoenix. It is on our YouTube. It's also on our Facebook. There is a flashlight session with her. Now, she is in a different case than what she is in right now. So when you're listening to the video, you only see Chris and you see the flashlight. You don't see Phoenix. because she was sitting up on a bookshelf in a smaller case. And Chris is sitting there, and obviously people, they want to know where your hands are. So at first his hands were down here. And then I had somebody filming that, and she's under the table, she's everywhere to prove that he's not doing anything, but the flashlight is right here. And then all of a sudden, I asked Phoenix, I said, so, you know, if you're here, because I had some lady on Facebook say that she was a fake and all this other stuff. And it pissed the situation a little bit.
Yeah.
And I told Phoenix, I said, yeah, you're being accused of being a fake, you know? And all of a sudden, like, one of the K2s went off. And so Chris turns around, he puts his glasses up on his head, and he takes his arms and he goes like this. The next thing you know, he directly tells Phoenix, turn off the flashlight. Boom, there goes the flashlight. And 2 seconds later, the flashlight's back on. Flashlight's off, flashlight's on. Now she's doing this back and forth for like 10 minutes, and I got a cheering squad in my office. You know, everyone's giving kudos to Phoenix because she's turning the lights on and off. I was like, this is unbelievable. I've done a portal session with her with a piece of equipment that we have. I don't like some of the things that I hear that she says, but I will just leave it like that. I can tell you that the doll is a she, but the spirit that is in her is not. It's a he. And I've only seen one other doll like this, and it's weird because it just vanished. And there are no more like her. There's no doll maker of her. There's nothing. So she was obviously made. 2 left fingers are cut off on her hand. That was something that we found really odd.
Interesting.
And her face gets really red. If she's interacting, the cheeks will get extremely red, or they will get less. And we've actually seen the eyes get very, very dark and then go back to normal. So it's hard to say. And I've had a lot of people say to me, well, what makes you think just because it's in glass that it's going to stay there? I mean, if a spirit wants to leave, it can. This is very true. It can. But what people don't understand, it's not the box that's doing anything. It's the same thing with Annabelle. It's the entity that resides in the conduit. And dolls are targets for this because this is a host body. So the energy uses it as the conduit to live inside the host body. Okay, this is the closest thing to a body that you're going to get. Arms, legs, a head, eyes. Okay, so that's where dolls become more of the conduit, in my opinion. There might be other professionals out there that think I'm off the rail, but that's my opinion. Yeah. And a conduit is why you get so many of this, even with clowns and stuff like that. Phoenix is definitely hosting something. So is that energy going to go somewhere? Nope, because it operates inside and through the doll. And as long as it's got that source to do that, it's going to stay. It's the same thing with Robert the doll. Robert's the same thing. You know, Robert is contained energy because he can operate through his host body, which is the conduit.
Somebody we had on the show said the same thing about dolls. It's a host, like the head, the body. You know, like
yes, the closest to being, you know, a spirit being back in a human form.
It's a conduit, basically. And a lot of people say, well, energy can leave it if it wants to. Yes, it can. But if they're getting what they want out of it being in there, they're not going anywhere. Right. So how come the spirit never left Robert? And how come Annabelle, her spirit didn't disappear? You know, and a lot of people are, you know, concerned about that because, you know, of what may be attached to some of these dolls, you know, and they're worried about it.
Yeah.
I personally have never been in the same room with Annabelle, so I can't tell you. I don't know.
What do you think the reason they attach to items?
I believe when spirit attaches itself to an item, such as like going to a flea market and stuff, you can bring something home and just have things start happening. Yeah. These are things that people were attached to. And if you're really connected to stuff in the physical world,
Yeah.
your residual energy can remain connected to those things as well. We have a comet. It is a 1970 something. My husband's going to kill me because I don't remember the year. It belonged to his grandparents.
Oh, wow.
And it was parked in our garage. And everything he owns is not normal. It has big motors, big wheels, and goes fast. So the regular motor in Grandma's car is no longer. It's obviously a more high performance motor.
Right.
But one night, walked out into the garage where this car was, and you could smell the cigarette smoke right near it and perfume. The perfume turned out to be the same perfume his grandmother wore, and his grandfather smoked Cuban cigarettes, cigars. The thing with my husband is this was so sentimental to him that even after they died, he never emptied the ashtray. And there's cigarette butts in there with her lipstick on there. So the car is almost like stuck in time with their connection in this car.
Yeah.
I know what I smelled. And that happens every now and then. You'll walk past this car and you smell the cigar smoke.
Yeah.
Or the perfume. So yeah, it's connection, it's energy. We all have it. We possess a lot of it. We're very powerful. We only use a small portion of what we're capable of doing.
I have a question for all of us. If you were to attach something when you pass, what would your object be? Do you have one?
You talking me?
Everybody, Jen, Mondo, you. I don't
Oh
know.
God.
What would I attach to that I like so much? I don't know. What about you guys in the chat? I don't know.
I don't know. Probably one of my handbags or something.
That's a good one. Right.
Probably my Louis Vuitton will go flying out of the closet and everybody will know it's me. I don't know.
I don't know.
It's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, if we had the capability, I'm like, what would I attach to? That's like.
I mean, it would have to be something. I'm sure all of you have someone in your family that was very near and dear to you.
Yeah.
And so that love you felt for them and anything that they had, when you hold it or you touch it or you look at it, it pulls you back into that space and time of their life. That is the connection.
Yeah.
You understand how that works? And I truly believe that we can continue to manifest our loved ones even when they're gone, because that's a rule that we have in my house. Anyone that is deceased is alive in my home.
Right.
Because we bring them back. We talk about them all the time. And the more you talk about them, the more you keep them alive.
Right.
And I even have a table here that belonged to my husband's parents. Yeah. Every time we sit at it, I have a vision of the whole family there. And so we keep them alive by talking about them.
Yeah. You
keep the spirit and the memory alive when you speak of them all the time. And that's what we do. You know, if they were good people and they were people you loved, you talk about them.
Yeah.
You keep them alive.
I agree. Yeah. It's almost like I don't know if summoning is the right word, but I feel like you kind of call them down, call them to you.
You're keeping that energy going. You're keeping that soul flow is what I call it. Just keeping everything moving. And it also gives you a lot of peace.
It does.
It gives you a lot of peace of knowing that you can still connect by just talking, or sitting down and looking at photos or just having an in general conversation. And I really think that the connection is very real. Conduit connection is very real. Possession is real. I mean, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So let's get into your book, When Spirit Speaks. So tell us about it. And where
Where Spirit Speaks is available anywhere that you can get books. So Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Amazon International, Amazon. If you're local in our area, Madison Books carries it. It is, this book took years to write, but it is really what we talked about at the beginning of the show. I allowed myself to open up about this whole thing about me at the beginning. And then I brought it full circle. It has some of my most significant cases in here, pictures and all. And it's all the stories. I have tons of cases because I've been doing it for over 25 plus years. I keep saying 25, but it's got to be more than 25 now. But the ones that are more significant are in here. And I talk about that. I talk about Phoenix. I talk about the spirit world and how I view it. So the book is really a good read. And I'm very fortunate to have had a great publisher, editor, and all the people that were involved in finishing this up and getting it out. My genre has jumped all over the place because originally it was a cookbook, and I did that in 2009. And then I had a span from 2009 to 2012, and I wrote a children's book. And then from 2012 to 2017, I wrote another children's book. And then in 2024, on October 31st, this book published.
That's cool.
The children's books, you know, they're a hard sell, but one of them is an educational tool. And that one is The Adventures of Willow, Spider, and Friends. It's in libraries, it's in schools, it's in classrooms, and I'm really happy about that. It's also on an Audible read. But I always knew in my heart, based on who I am, what I am, and how I feel about this journey, that I had to eventually put it all into paper and in a book. And here it is. And I look at it sometimes and I'm even shocked, but I'm glad that it's out and I'm really proud of the work.
Well, congratulations on
I
it.
love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because, you know, even with all the experiences, sometimes you even forget.
Yeah.
And then you go back and you're like, yeah.
Man, I did
Yeah.
a police.
I not only did that, but I experienced that.
Yeah,
Yes, just,
that's
you
cool.
know.
What I did is I just, you know, I made like a journal and I wrote down things that were important to me. And then I have one of those memories, I guess, that you kind of call it like a photogenic kind of photo remembering memory, where you can remember details, especially if they're important. But with as many cases that have crossed my path, sometimes you lose track of the detail. So with the help of my clients that were kind enough to provide information, details of their stories, photos, that's where this all comes in. I do have a case in here that, believe it or not, went as far as the Catholic Church, and it involved the priest and a demonologist priest. There's a photo of what exactly happened in that home. Still haven't really gotten to the bottom of it. The people involved in that story are great people, and they went through a lot. They still do, but they learn how to deal with it a little bit better. When it first started, it wasn't so good. And we did find out later that there's history on the ground there, but that a child did die in that home of a very tragic death. And I don't believe a child is causing all the craziness that goes on in this house, because what involved the priest and the Catholic priest and the demonologist stuff, it was a little bit more deviant than what would be of a child. A child wouldn't do this, what's happened in this home. And this is the first time for me. I mean, I did deal with the priest in South Florida on one case, but it was not like this, where I had to even go in to be counseled by this priest. And the homeowner had to do a whole bunch of stuff. You know, when they say, like in the movies, like, you know, well, it takes a while for everything to get through the channels. You know, if you're going to go through the church, it takes a while. They have to really evaluate it to make sure that they are dealing with something that they can justify actually sending somebody out there. Yeah. And you can exorcise a person, but you don't exorcise the land, and you can't exorcise possessions. You have to bless them. So very heavy blessings were done at this residence. And even after all that, I hate to say it, 2 weeks later, things started up all over again. So you just never know. But those are the stories that are here. And the people that were involved in allowing me to come into their world, their home, their privacy, and share the most terrifying things of their lives, I am forever grateful to. And I felt that their stories deserve to be put out there. And through their permission, they are out there.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
That's also, you know, a learning tool for others.
Yeah.
And others' experiences, and then either other people have experienced the same thing and they can learn more about it, or just be like, wow, that's this, you know, I'm not crazy. This has happened to
and that's a key thing. No matter who you are, what team you're on, what you do in this, I believe in para-unity very much, but the key thing I believe in the most is your client is never crazy. They come to you for a reason.
Exactly.
Something has them shook up.
Yeah.
And if you can't deal with it, then you bring somebody else in to get their opinion. I don't think you could ever have too many eyes on something. I have turned to other paranormal teams, and I've even had cases that people call me in your neck of the woods, or they'll call me to go to Alabama. I can't get there. If I can't get there, I can't get there. But if I can find a reputable team to send, I'm going to do that, because these people need help, and they can't wait. You know, we're just one team. We're just one team. So sometimes travel, depending on where it is, it's hard. I mean, I asked somebody to call me and ask me if I can go to Nevada. I put out a bolo on Facebook. Is there a team in Nevada?
Yeah.
Somebody that will answer their phone. You know, is there somebody out there? Because that's the biggest complaint I hear. Well, I call the number, nobody picks up. I'm like, well, I don't know what to do, but give me a minute and I'll try to figure it out. And I couldn't find anybody. So I literally walked them through it the best I could over the phone, and just tried to work with them and stay with them through it so that they didn't feel lost in their fear. And then I think, go ahead.
I think it's good that, because a lot of people are scared to know what they have in their house. They don't want to be, they have activity, but they're scared to find out what it is, you know? So they're very brave, the people that are reaching out for private residents.
Well, I got to tell you guys something. I had a situation happen to me here in North Florida that I was dealing with a guy that kept reaching out to me to go to his house in Georgia. And then all of a sudden I kept getting messages from all these paranormal teams reaching out to me. And I'm like, what in the heck is going on here? And I had several of them. One team in Georgia that's really well known. And they're like, don't go. I'm like, okay, I'm not, whoa. You know, I'm getting another message now from a guy. He's a police officer and he's a paranormal investigator. And he's like, don't do it. I'm like, okay, we're not going. But I couldn't figure out what was happening. This guy kept reaching out to me. Well, hell, the next day he's in the paper for murder.
Wow.
Yeah, he's in the paper for murder. And he was trying to lure people out to his house. Huh?
What were the people saying when they were writing you?
What'd she say?
The people that wrote you and told you
they were telling me, listen, don't go to this guy's house. He's crazy. He's been reaching out to all of us. There's something weird going on. When the police officer reached out to me, because he's a paranormal investigator, he's like, listen, it doesn't feel right. Don't go out there. I don't know exactly what's going on. I don't think anybody really knew, but the stories and the photos that he was sending me, next thing I know, he's in an orange jumper. He's got this long, scraggly hair. And when you looked at his mugshot, it was the scariest thing I ever saw. His eyes were just totally white, like they were covered in cataracts.
Chills. I have chills listening to that.
He was all over the paper. Wow. I was like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. So I screen my cases really well.
You have to, because you have no idea the intentions of other people. And he's reaching out to multiple people and seeing who
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was reaching out to everybody, but thank God for the other paranormal teams that were reaching out to other teams, telling them, hey, if you get a message from this, don't do it. I am so grateful to the Georgia paranormal team that reached out to me and the other people that reached out, because, you know, they could have saved some lives, you know. I mean, thank God for them. You know, thank God for them.
We've had we had somebody, I don't know where they were in North Florida, but I just don't know where. But somebody had reached out, and then we found out from other people that they were reaching out also. This is not the same, obviously not the same person, but when I had talked about it to other teammates, they're like, nah, that guy's like, he's not over there, don't worry about it, whatever, you know. And that does happen, you know. You have to network and find out, especially if you're local, you have other local teams in your state, in your area. Like, has this person reached out to you? Like, you know, if they already sound off. You know what I'm saying? You know,
when I do in-home investigations, the first thing I ask my clients is, you know, do you have any video? Do you have any evidence? Is there anything you can provide me?
Right.
And I might take a couple of weeks to evaluate this information as they're sending it to me to determine whether or not I think I need to be present there in the first place.
Yeah.
And then I really evaluate the situation. I never tell anybody that they're crazy or that they have nothing going on. I try to find a easy route to handle it. If it's something that can be dealt with over the phone, then that's what we do. And sometimes I feel that people just need to talk to somebody, and so I'm willing to talk to them. But yeah, we do screen because I don't charge for my services. And the thing is, I'm not gonna go to cases where, you know, there's no point in me being there. We could have done this over the phone. But definitely in the time that you live in right now, you need to be more vigilant of what you're doing and pay attention to how you handle the cases as you're taking them. With me, I'm lucky though. I thank God for this. They're mostly word of mouth. So they are recommended by people I already know that are sending other people to me. So that's how that all comes about.
Yeah. Yeah, here I am saying, oh, the people that are calling people that, you know, calling for help are like, you know, and I didn't even think of the opposite, you know, side of the story to the
Hey, you learn something new every day. It's just, you know, it's good to have a paranormal powwow every now and then. Definitely.
The stories
definitely.
The stories that I hear from what people said, they know they have activity, but they're scared. They don't, you know, because they have to live there at the end of the day. I've never heard of what you just said, and that's scary.
Makes you think.
Yeah, it does. You got to be careful.
Makes you think. Yeah.
That's why I be packing. But you know what? Like there's been residentials where it's, you know, and they say it's something and it's not. It's substance abuse and stuff like that. When you go into the home and then you down and then you're like, shit, maybe I should not be here.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. And to touch on that a little bit more, you know, I did get a degree in parapsychology, which is not really recognized much here in the States. It's very hard to get. It's usually only offered in out of the country kind of situation. But I got it anyways because I also got ordained back in 2006. And these were just all little criteria that I wanted for myself to put on that resume for me. But there are things out there that you do have to watch for sure. Chris on our team is a corrections officer, so we're always covered in that respect. But the thing is that there are people out there that might have certain medical conditions that heighten their fear levels a little bit more. So when we run into stuff like that, we have to really be careful how we deal with it. You don't want to add to that fear, but you also want to take the time to kind of like evaluate it to see how you're going to handle it and how you're going to approach it. Like I said at the very beginning of this, I never call anybody crazy because I don't think that would be fair. But I also would like to see some stuff so I could see what's going on before I venture out and try to deal with you, because it would help if I knew what I was dealing with.
Right. That's good though. Yeah. That's good. Yeah, definitely screen them because number one, you don't want to waste your time. Number two, they might be crazy. Well, not a crazy, like, you know, but murder crazy.
Yeah, that Georgia thing really kind of flipped me out. I was like, oh man, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, I didn't know why I don't think I probably would have thought about that if I did have somebody, you know, reach out for a private, but then it's not something would have been on the first first thing in my head. You know, it would be
I
exciting.
was taken back by the fact that the paranormal teams were contacting me left and right, and I'm thinking to myself,
Thank
they
God.
don't even know me. Like, what is going on here? I'm not famous. What the heck just happened here?
Yeah.
And they're like, listen, da 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 da. And they explained it to me. They're like, don't go. I'm like, well, hell, I've already heard from 5 of you. I ain't going anywhere. The next day, he's in the paper.
Do you know why, or like was it a random person that he murdered, or was it a
let me see if I can remember all the details of this situation. I don't know if it was a family member or not. It was a female, that I do know. And I just don't, you know, I don't get the Georgia paper, so all I saw is what was online. But somebody wrote me and said, is this the same dude that was contacting you? I'm like, yeah, it is. And he's pretty scary looking too.
Wow.
Yeah, it really freaked me out. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. I don't blame you. That's crazy.
It hasn't happened again.
Good.
You know,
yes. Thank God.
Everybody that comes to me, they've really got something going on. And, you know, we just try to walk them through it. You know, we can do this. One ghost at a time. We'll deal with it.
Question, in your book, do you go through, like, say, protection and like how you do with that?
Yeah, I talk about the equipment and different things, and I think somewhere in there, don't hold me to it, I'd have to look at the pages, but I do talk about stuff in general. If I don't elaborate too much on the protection part of it, for me, because of what I see and feel anyways, I armor up pretty tight before I go out the door, and I do it for my team as well. If I know we're walking into something that's, you know, a little bit off the rail, we use different oils and stuff like that, or certain jewelry, just pieces that are more reflective of energy and stuff. I will sage after an investigation, and I even had a case where a client, they weren't in the house maybe 6 weeks, brand new home. They weren't even unpacked. I walked in, there's 6 mirrors all over this house, mirrors everywhere. And the house was wild. It was off the rail. And one of my team members is like, look, we live in Florida. You tell me when on a summer hot night that you don't hear frogs chirping. And I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, listen. I said, I don't hear anything. He says, exactly. He's like, it's like the cone of silence. You don't hear nothing, not even a frog. We're in Florida. Hello? They're like a choir at night. Heard nothing. Went in this house. I was like, whoa, what is going on in here? And we lasted in there maybe an hour or two. We had a really crazy, wild experience. There was a mirror that was a portal, and it was wide open. There were animals in it. There were Native American Indian in it. There was all kinds of stuff trying to get out of it. And as it was all coming out of the mirror, this very large, like 7-foot figure just ducks out and comes out, walks to the door, goes through one of my team members. He comes back in. He's sick. He's pale. He's nauseous. He's like, something just happened to me at the door. We stopped what we were doing. We rolled back some of our video, our audio. There's a voice on there telling us to get out. Mm-hmm. Next thing I know, I'm like, this is insane. Here comes this figure again. It's coming back through the door, and it goes back into the mirror. I'm like, all right, we need to shut this down because I really don't know what's happening here. Well, make a long story short, as we're leaving, I asked these people, I said, look, you know, do you have any religious preferences? Do you believe in God? Do you this, anything at all? She's like, no. I said, okay. I said, well, you know, we're not here to determine whether or not you should have any faith. We're just trying to just establish some sort of baseline here to try to figure out what's happening in your house. So as I'm leaving, she has a box that she opened that somebody else owned in this house, and there's stuff in it. We don't know where this stuff came from. She says, well, I want to give you something. Well, first of all, she asked me if she could have a drink. I said, no, we don't allow alcohol during our in-home investigations because I need you to be completely together, not drinking. Yeah. Okay, this makes you more susceptible to trouble. And then I don't know what I'm dealing with because if you got too much alcohol in you, this could be a problem. So she says, okay, well, can I get some tea? She opens up her refrigerator and a 12-pack of beer falls out of the refrigerator all over the floor. So now we're spending 20 minutes cleaning up beer. Well, once we get this all cleaned up, we get her calmed down, we get her to sit down. She's got these marks all over her neck, scratched. She's all red. I don't know where this is coming from. She goes over to the box. I said to her, listen, can I take a couple mirrors out of this house? Because I think you got too many of them. She lets us take one out of the house. So we did. We took it out, but I'm not certain that it stayed out. It might have come back. It's in the book. I talk about this case.
Yeah.
She hands me a piece of jewelry, an 18-karat gold bracelet. She opens my hand. She says, here, I want you to have this. She lays it in my hand, and I'm holding it. So we leave the house. We get down the street. We're not even 5 minutes out the door. I said, stop the car. My husband's looking at me like, what? Like, stop the car. And I rolled down the window, and everybody watched me, and I threw that bracelet.
Yep.
And LaDonna's the only one that said, I know why she did that. She's not crazy. Step on the gas and let's go. I'm like, yeah, I did it. And the rest of them are looking at me like, you just threw a piece of jewelry out the door. I'm like, I don't care. It's not just a piece of jewelry. Because what I fell off that piece of jewelry ain't going home with me.
Right.
And about a week or two later, that house was up for sale. They moved out with just the clothes on their back. And since then, that house has been up for sale 4 or 5 different times.
Wow.
Wow.
There was actually a picture on our Facebook page. It's hard for you to see it because the picture, they look this big. But there's 2 team members standing down by a retention area. And there's this black figure walking right towards them. And we're just yelling at them to run. They're like, what? We're like, run, as in run. And they start running up towards us. LaDonna's gotten herself into a couple pickles. She's crazy. But, yeah, she's gotten herself into some stuff.
That's crazy.
Wow.
She blames me. She's like, it's all your fault. I'm like, hey.
Well, you're on a
what do you
team
want me to
together.
do?
It comes with the territory, right?
It comes with the territory, right?
Exactly. James, you're not getting that address, buddy. I had something like that, very similar, where someone gave me a piece of jewelry, and before we left the town, I ended up chucking. I chucked it too. Well, no. I chucked it in Broward, but yeah, it wasn't coming home with me. And I was like, nah, I'm good.
You just know, you know, again, it goes back to that sixth sense, you know, and everybody has it. And when it talks to you, you got to listen to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
It doesn't lie to you. You got it for a reason. It's your built-in radar.
Yeah, everybody has it. Yeah.
And I know a lot of your viewers, if they're listening to that, they can relate to it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
for sure.
Before we wrap up, well, talking about equipment, what is your favorite piece of equipment? We like to ask investigators.
I'll be honest with you. I have gotten a lot of good results out of the tripwire. So I do like that. But now that I've gotten this portal box that I have, I'm really liking it because you attach it to the spirit box, the little S, whatever one that is there. You plug it into the box, right? Yes, you plug it in. Then you have to get the settings just right. Turn the volume down just enough. And what it does is through the spirit box, it intercepts into this portal box, which is a more magnified speaker. But I have gotten a lot of good verbiage out of this that I can actually hear it and understand what's being said because it's taking out the static and breaking down all the backdrop on the regular box. So I do like that. I have an Ōvulus. I think the original Ōvulus was the best one. The one that they've come out with now, it's all right. And believe it or not, I still rely on a good old-fashioned cassette situation. I also rely on a handheld, smaller, 1970, early 80-ish, I think it's more mid-80, hand recorder. I have found that the digitals are great, but sometimes just too much feedback, too sensitive, then you start hearing more than what you need to hear. So I like the little one that I got. It was a Panasonic. I like it. It works good, and it allows me to play back and actually hear things more clearly, I think. But my favorite right here, she likes the pod. So my haunted stuff prefers the pod.
Mine too.
Phoenix will react to both the tripwire and the pod. But I'd say it's a toss-up, to be honest with you. I think both of them. But somebody said to me one time, well, why is one piece of equipment working and the other one's not? I'm like, because I feel, in my opinion, that spirit is interacting with what it wants to interact with. So if it don't want to mess with that, it's not going to cause it to trip. It's going to only interact with what it's connected to. So it's a toss-up. Like I said, everything's on spirit time, including the toys they choose to play with.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Excellent. Denise, completely off topic, and then we'll wrap up. So a little known fact, nobody in the show knows it. My wife knows because obviously we're married. But there's a school in Broward County that I went to. It's called Sheridan Technical College. I'm pretty sure you've heard of it, being that you reside.
Yes, I have.
And Mondo here is actually a certified culinarian. So you have written a cookbook. So I was just interested in knowing, what is your favorite recipe on the book?
Well, I'm full-blooded Italian, if that means anything. And so, full-blooded Italian. And to be honest with you, if you were to grab my cookbook, you would be like, okay, it's very basic. I did not set out to be, I didn't set out to be Paula Deen. My whole reasoning behind the book was, my husband's mother and I were going to write a cookbook. Unfortunately, we lost her before we ever got around to doing that. So I felt it necessary to fulfill the situation and go ahead and write the book. But I live up here in College Town area, and I'm thinking of all the students, you know, even the ones that I've done investigations for. And I had 5 girls in a dormitory from Broward County, no less, that I did an investigation for. And that's in the book. But there's people out there that they don't know how to cook. They don't even know how to boil water. So I just literally wrote a book on the simplicity of how to make food. And you know, the internet can be brutal. And it can be very mean, very harsh. So when I wrote this cookbook back in 2009, one lady says to me, so you're full-blooded Italian and you're telling somebody to use a jar sauce? I'm like, listen, chickie, if this person doesn't have the time or understand how to take the cans and get it all together in the kitchen, but yet she's got 4 kids that she needs to feed and she works an 8-hour day and those children want spaghetti, then I'm going to tell her how to take a jar sauce, add some hamburger, add a little vegetable to it, put some green peppers in it, whatever, flavor it up with some seasonings. You got yourself a pasta sauce and your children are getting spaghetti. Is there anything wrong with that? No. So my favorite dish in there would probably be any one of the pasta dishes, obviously. And then there's some baking items, and then there's some drinks. But it's a basic book. You know, it's good for the college student. It's good for the first-time cook, the single father that's got his kids on the weekend and he's never had to cook a day in his life, but he wants to figure out how to feed his kids. That's what I call Let's Eat. It's just a basic book. Let's eat. And I always felt that being Italian, and you fully understand this, your best conversations are in the kitchen. Your best memories are in the kitchen. They're always around a table or an island with a glass of wine and good food. And you cannot go wrong with that. And for ghost hunters, our best conversations are in a room together with ghost hunting equipment and spirit talking in the background. It makes for a perfect evening.
For real.
Yeah, nerve center is
snacking and like telling you what's happening. Exactly.
Yeah, and
exactly.
And out there, I'm a sucker, absolute
exactly.
sucker for chicken parmesan. That is my.
Oh, wait a second. You sure you're not related to my husband anywhere in this? Because chicken parm is like his thing. So, you know, every once in a while here, when we're not running around crazy, I will make the chicken parm, and I will say, yeah, it is one of my favorites too. So.
Yeah,
that's all we order every time we go eat Italian is chicken parm. We don't
when we go when I take her back to where I grew up, there's a Italian restaurant there called 𝗶𝙗's. That's actually right down the street from Treetops Park, believe it or not. But yeah,
oh wow,
you guys are want to sponsor us. We were just there last weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it sounds like 305 Paranormal is gonna have to take 75 up to go visit Denise in Perry, Florida.
Oh, wow. You know, we would love to see you up here, and we'll have to take you into the brothel, and who knows, maybe we can book one of these cases. And, you know, if you ever decide to come up this way, St. Augustine is one of our favorite places. And I've done the jail exclusively, and I did go to the lighthouse most recently, and that's a whole nother show. But when they tell you there's spirits in there, there really are, because I got up to the top and I hate heights, but I did have that feeling like somebody wanted to push me down the steps. And a lot of people have said they have felt that. I also have a podcast, and I'm going to put this out there because Haunted Florida got branched off from the group for my web series first. Okay, that's where the name established. And then it went into the group, and then I did a podcast. Well, you know, I'm new at the podcast thing, okay? I'm telling you all right now, I'm new at it. And I had to change something there because it wasn't working where I was. And so a lot of my material got lost. So I'm like, well, that's great. And I got to start all over again. So my podcasts are stories that I tell, and I call them shorts. So they're not really long. They're just short, but they're stories. And they're about haunted locations throughout Florida and beyond. Because some people give me a rack of garbage. They're like, Denise, I thought this was all Florida. It is, but it's okay to talk about other locations, especially if you've been there. And it's okay for people on Haunted Florida to share other stories outside the area, because I don't really care if they do. It doesn't always have to be just Florida because we say it's Haunted Florida. But yeah, so I got this little gig going on the side, and it's good, but it's short stories. But if you're ever up this way, or you think you're coming up this way, maybe we should all just try to meet somewhere over there and take on an investigation out at the St. Augustine area. Ooh. I don't know if have you ever been to the Dixie House?
No, we haven't.
Well, I can tell you right now, my friends that go St. Augustine, I love them dearly. One of the investigators, his name is Brent. He is on my Facebook page. We had the pleasure of dealing with him at the beginning of the year, and we went to the Dixie House. And I will tell you right now, we got video of all that. There was a child spirit there by the name of Tommy. He actually sat on my lap. There is another spirit in there that is just very active. And the whole experience there, if you haven't done it, then we'd love to do it with you. You would have a fabulous time.
Well, you don't have to threaten us with a good time.
Yeah, we'll bring you up here to Spookyville, and we'll get you to St. Augustine, and yeah, set you loose there. That place definitely is loaded up with spirits. And hey, look on the bright side. I'm interested to see what's going to happen in July when they go to the battlefield there with Annabelle.
Oh yeah. Wait, so are they taking her to Gettysburg back?
They sure are. They sure are.
You know, 1 year we were there last year.
They're taking her. They're taking her. And, you know, that's going to be really interesting because, I mean, you can see soldiers with your eyeballs just standing there looking. There's enough proof of apparitions there. You don't need anything else. Can you imagine Annabelle in Gettysburg? That's going to be fun.
Interesting. Wow. Well, tell everybody where they can find you and connect with you, please.
Okay, so Paranormal Investigators of North Florida is on Facebook. There is another group out there that's close to my name, so I'll just describe what my page looks like. Up at the top, it's green with a little girl floating, and then in our picture, it's blue with like little 4 ghosts, because there is a team that parallels my name. That's us there. And then Haunted Florida, which is the group. And then on TikTok, under Paranormal Investigators of North Florida. And then there's an Instagram page for me, which is just my name, and it's just a regular page. I am sharing a little bit more there. TikTok and I just got really familiar with each other over the last year, but most of where I started was with Facebook. So these have been pages within the year making, years of working them and putting everything out there.
Yeah.
Awesome. I want to thank you so much for coming on and sharing everything. Like, amazing talking to you.
Yeah, it was
I love
really
your
good
short stories.
I really appreciate you too, and thank you for the opportunity. And like I said, in the book, it explains a lot of some of these stories right here. I know we're limited on time, but again, if you are ever up in this area, or if you decide to venture up here, or if you just want to take on an investigation, let me know. I'll tell you where to go. And I am going to be doing something with this brothel. Not sure if it's going to be to the public or investigators only, and it might just be a little bit of both. But because of the age of the building, the condition of the building, and certain circumstances, it would have to be in smaller groups if it were to be the public. We thought about doing 2 runs in October if we can. And then on the investigative side of it, it would be teams that actually want to go check this out and investigate it. It is quite interesting.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to that and hanging out with you.
Yeah, we'll definitely keep in touch about that.
From your brain.
Oh, absolutely. You're more than welcome up this way. I mean, Perry's a small, little, quiet, quaint town, and you know, it's not South Florida. It's definitely a huge change. It can throw you into culture shock in less than 15 minutes. But you know what? I will say this, and I mean this wholeheartedly. There's a lot of places that I've lived. South Florida's been home forever. But the people here in this town, they are wonderful people. And they have welcomed me here, and they have accepted what I do. I'm in the thick of the Bible Belt. I thought for sure I'd be kicked out a long time ago, but they also know I'm not crazy in the head. And I am a businesswoman. I have a business outside of this. So I'm very well put together. There's nothing wrong with me. I help people. And really, that's what this is all about. It's helping people that are lost or in search, or they lost somebody and they can't deal with it. They're just trying to find a path. I think everybody deserves that opportunity. And it doesn't really matter how it comes to you, whether it's through spirit or through another way. We're all human. I feel that, you know, we all have to take care of each other in this life, because that's just the way it's supposed to be. And that's how I treat my clients and fellow paranormal investigators and team members. You know, we try to help. And if I need somebody, I reach out. And now that I know where you are, that's a saving grace in itself right there, because there are people down there that I can't get to, but you don't want to just send them to anybody, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, it's nice if you meet paranormal investigators across the country too, because you get phone calls all the time and they think you could just hop on a plane and go. I can't do that, you know? So I don't like to fly.
So, I don't blame
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I definitely will be sending people in your direction if they're calling me, for sure. And I appreciate all of you so very much.
Yeah, please screen them for me, though.
So chat room, thank you very much. You guys have been very great today and talking a lot. Thank you very much for that. How you can show us love is to follow our guests. All of our guests that we've had in the past, including Denise. Go ahead and give her a follow. Check her out. You can check out all the books that she has, like she was saying, in her local bookstores or on Amazon as well. And check out Denise when she does have her podcast going with the short stories. So go ahead and check that out too.
Definitely going to listen to that. Yeah.
And bear with me, please, because anybody that has a podcast that had it running for a whole year with a bunch of stories, they could lose them all in 2 seconds of a button on a computer. You know, I'm a newbie, but you know what? The stuff I am putting out. The stuff I am putting out is good, and there are short stories. They keep your attention. They're a good little bedtime story. If you like a little creepy before you go to sleep, I give that to you. You're not on there for 45 minutes.
Thank you.
All right. And as always, everyone, please remember, if you want to get spooked, hit that notification bell, the like button, and feel free to comment on this video. Tell your friends to go check out Spooked Coast to Coast. And until then, we will see you guys next Sunday.
Have a great week, everybody.
Thank you.